So you get sleep or what?
Yeah, not
Baby
bad.
Montana, what, a month old now? Ish?
Month on month Wednesday, last Wednesday. So yeah, she's a little over a month now. She's sleeping as much as any normal newborn would, right? But we're
Which is
trying
a
to.
lot, but not all at the same time.
Yeah, it's normally when you start to fall asleep, they decide to wake up type thing. So, but she's good. We just got to get her into that. Once we don't have to feed her, once she's not crying every 2 hours to eat type thing. You know what I mean? She's still kind of.
Well, their stomachs are so tiny.
I know.
It's not like they can like stock
She's got
up.
gat's real bad, so that's been tying her up quite a bit. Like just
like your
waking her
father.
up. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So she's been, but she's been awesome. Britt's been awesome. It's been fun. It just like Britt's with her all day. Oh right. Are we recording?
Yeah, let's go right into it.
Oh, we are?
Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea. I didn't know we were recording. No, Britt's been awesome. She obviously you've been through it, so like you see it just gives you a complete different just definition and outlook on what tough is, right? Like I said to Britt after she had Montana that if guys were in charge of having babies, I don't know how long the world would be around, because you couldn't pay me any amount of money in the world to do what she did and watch what I watched her go through, and they do it willingly and more than once. And obviously you guys have been through it, so like it's fun. Like, Britt's with her obviously most of the day, and I'll have to go here and there to the rink or whatever, and when I come home it's like she grew. It's like she's growing every time I see her, because there are gaps where I don't see her for a handful of hours, and it's pretty wild. It's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. She's been a peanut, and we couldn't ask for anything better. That's for sure.
At that age, you go away for like a night or like a weekend, and you come back and you're like, "Holy cow, bigger!"
It's crazy. And now she's grown. Like, she's not so much tracking, but she's starting to like make eye contact and stuff. So it's like a completely different human now. You know what I mean? It's at first it's kind of like this. I always joked with Britt, like, you're there at the hospital for 48 hours and we're first time parents, and they literally just, it's like they hand you this raccoon and it's like, here, keep it alive. You know what I mean?
First time's tough. It's for like, different reasons than having the second or third, but it's just, you've never done it.
No, and that's the thing.
It's crazy.
And we're lucky. We have a lot of support. I have 12 nieces and nephews. My sister actually just adopted a kid.
Your siblings.
Right.
Help you out a little bit
I'm one of 6. So it's like we have a lot of resources where we're able to kind of bounce ideas off of. And, if we have questions or concerns, somebody's always there to be able to kind of give us answers or feedback on, what not to get worked up over, or, what to do in a certain situation. So it's been, like I said, it's been kind of a trial by error, but it's been a lot of fun. She's been awesome. My wife's been awesome. And, like I said, we couldn't ask for anything better.
It only continues to become more and more fun. We have a daughter a few months ahead.
Right.
And she's like, kind of knows her name. So when you call her, she turns with a big smile. And I also just think back to when we had Kenzie, our first daughter, and, it was a tough birth. She had jaundice, or in and out of the hospital. It wasn't that serious, but it's still, you're back and forth for the NICU. It was, it was a lot. It was a lot of stress, especially on Alyssa, who just gave birth. It was a long, stressful delivery. And finally, like, we're back at, our apartment in Austin. It was before we moved back to Syracuse. And at one point, it was like a Saturday morning. We're just kind of laying on our bed. And Kenzie's just laying on like the boppy pillow. And it just kind of hit me. I'm like, we have this one more to the crew here.
Right.
Like, she's just with us now for 18 years or however long she's going to be here.
It's crazy.
It's so wild. It's such a transition that you're not used to. It's kind of, you can't really prepare. It's hard to tell people like, this is what to expect. You just like, you're going to figure it out.
Right. And that's the thing. Like, and I never even processed it. Like, as we were driving to the hospital, we were sitting in the hospital, like all of these things were happening. And I was still just like, I don't know when it's going to happen. And then all of a sudden, like, Britt was like, oh, I'm like,
the anticipation is crazy.
She's like, I'm in labor. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, like, we're like, this is going to be in the next like hour. I'm going to be a dad. You know what I mean? And it was,
hold the leg.
Right. I was in the room the whole time. I didn't hold the leg, but I was in the room the whole time. That's for sure. It was like I said, she did awesome. To watch what she went through, I went to practice 2 days after we had the baby, and at the end of practice, the kids, kind of passed me the mic type thing of like, welcome back, congratulations, and I just told them, I said, just make sure.
Go hug your mom.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. I was like, just make sure at the end of the day, your mothers know how much you appreciate them, because like watching until you're actually in the room and you see what actually takes place, you really don't understand what they go through to do it. It's crazy. It's a crazy process. And like I said, it just gives you kind of a whole new definition of what tough is, what perseverance is, whatever it is, whatever word you want to use. So it's pretty amazing.
It is crazy how insignificant the father's role kind of is.
Yeah.
Especially early on through the birth, through, breastfeeding or whatnot. It's important for a good environment, especially as they age, but yeah, you get an appreciation for what the mother has to deal with and what, the toughness she has to have to get through it. But
it's pretty amazing.
Shout out to women out there.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Talk a little bit about your background. I've known you, right? I lived with you in college. Yeah. Actually, you were just out of college, and I was in college up on a Hill.
Grad student.
Meadowbrook, yeah. And you were coaching Lemoyne at the time.
Yeah.
But kind of prior to that, how you got into, especially how you got into hockey.
Like I said, I have 5 brothers and sisters. I had 3 older brothers. And my father was never a hockey player as a kid. He was football and track. And then as we kind of
he's a pretty good basketball player too.
He is, yeah. He'll defend full court, whether it's 8 a.m. or 8 p.m., 3-on-3 or 5-on-5. He's a full court press guy. And, we always were doing something athletically. That was just my dad's, still is, just wants to always be moving and doing something. And he used to build us just a little ice rink in the backyard, and we'd go out and play. And that kind of just grew into all of us playing hockey. All 4 of my brothers played hockey. My sisters played field hockey. And that just kind of grew into something we loved to do. And then, it got time to go to school, and I went to Lemoyne. And then after Lemoyne, I helped coach while I was actually at Lemoyne, and I was helping coach a high school team around here. And then
while you were playing?
While I was playing, at Lemoyne, I was playing club hockey at Lemoyne and helping coach at Liverpool High School. And then I ended up student teaching with Frank Calabufo at West Jenny. And I'll never forget the last day student teaching with him. I just said to him, I said, look, if you ever need help coaching, I'd love to help you coach. And a couple weeks later, he called me, asked if I'd want to be a part of the staff. And that was 16 years ago now that I've been with him. And then the Lemoyne job came available. I was probably only 23, something like that. And so I ended up taking the head coaching job at Lemoyne, and I was teaching at the time. And it's just kind of, I always say, like, I never wanted to, like, every job that I took coaching, I always was just like, all right, this is it. Like, this is going to be, I'm happy. Like, when I was coaching at Liverpool, I was like, this is awesome. Like, sweet.
Yeah.
And then I got West Jenny, and I was like, this is like the pinnacle. Like, this is going to be awesome. I get to coach with Frank and, all the success he's had, and thought, this is it. And then I got Lemoyne, and I was like, all right, cool. I'm just going to coach club hockey for 30 years and, practice at 10 p.m. at night and all that. And then it just kind of happened organically. And then I ended up, a good friend of mine through Salt City Prospects ended up getting hired at Morrisville, asked me to be a part of the staff. And then, so I did that for 3 years. And then from there, John Whitelaw and Ed Gozick, the 2 coaches at Oswego State, they called me and said, hey, we'd love to have you up here. And obviously my wife's the lacrosse coach and strength and conditioning coach up there at Oswego. So it was a perfect fit. So I've been up there for, this is my 4th year. But every stop along the way, I've just been like, hey, like, I've never really looked to just like claw my way to places. It's just kind of happened organically, and haven't tried to rush anything per se. I've just tried to embrace where I'm at the time. And if something else comes along and it's worth it, then take it. But if not, I'm content where I am, I guess.
That makes sense, because I've seen you for years now, and especially when I lived with you, you were so into coaching. Obviously, that was kind of your main focus because
Yeah.
that's what you were doing after you graduated. But or you were at grad school, or were you
Yeah.
in grad school too?
Yeah, I was going to grad school at the time.
But that wasn't your focus.
No,
Coaching.
no. Yeah.
I just remember coming home and like you would literally have the projector up. You'd have 25, 20 whatever kids in our living room of our college house watching film, like numerous times. And I just thought, I mean, this is what we did at Syracuse lacrosse. I mean, you know, you were running them through, you know, different films, different game film and whatnot. And, you know, you could tell you were super into it. And clearly since then, that's all you've really been doing is focusing on hockey and coaching hockey. But I also think it's interesting that you never were like, my goal is to coach NCAA hockey or something like that. You've just been appreciative of whatever position you had.
Yeah.
And you've given it your all. And that just has opened doors for you, you know, as time's gone on.
Yeah. And you know, don't get me wrong. Like when I was at Lemoyne, I would have, you know, I always thought I would love to be in the NCAA. Right. Or, you know, when I was coaching at Liverpool, I would love to be in the NCAA, but it wasn't, I didn't feel like it was a necessity to have to accomplish what I ended up wanting to do. Right. Like I would have been content with coaching those group of kids at Liverpool for 25 years, if that's what came of it. Right. I went to school to be a teacher, and I was a teacher for 11 years. I did 2 years in the Syracuse City Schools, and then I did 9 years at BOCES. And even then, like it wasn't, I like you said, I think hockey and coaching was always just my passion. And I think teaching was an easy outlet to get to coaching.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they're always very similar, and they're kind of similar paths. It's easier to get into doors coaching at the high school level if you're a teacher. So that was kind of my thought process. Right. The schedules align, and, you know, and I think that teaching was just kind of a means to an end, I guess you could say. And I don't feel guilty saying that. You know, teaching was something that I didn't necessarily enjoy, but it was a means to an end. I really enjoyed coaching, and teaching allowed me to coach as much as I could. And then it got to a point where it was kind of, you got to pick one or the other. And that's where Salt City Prospects came in. And, you know, that kind of organically grew to a point where I could have an honest conversation with Britt and say, you know, I'm thinking about stepping away from teaching. And she was awesome with it. She was, you know, my biggest fan, and, you know, we rolled the dice. And so I left teaching, you know, and leaving teaching's not easy. You know, it's a 30-year pension. It's, you know, it's a check every 2 weeks. You know, you have the stability there. And so there was a lot of worries, but I think the pros outweighed the cons. At the end of the day, like, I'm a firm believer that.
No pun intended.
Right.
Salt City Pros.
Yeah. And I'm a firm believer that if you're passionate about something, do it. And at the end of the day, I'm a true big time believer that if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life, right? Like the old saying. And I felt by the end of my time teaching, it was like I dreaded getting up and going to work. I dreaded, you know, being at my desk. I dreaded, you know, it was just kind of, I felt like I was wasting days away, right? And so it was, you know, like an honest conversation with Britt, and she was great about it. And I stepped away, and, you know, the first year it was a little nerve wracking of like, all right, well, I got to make this work. Like I did it, and now I got to make it work. And I couldn't ask for a better 4 years. Like this has been the happiest I've ever been in my life, with everything, with coaching, with, you know, obviously my wife and now child, and, you know,
family.
Right. Family.
Bob Shattell's family.
Right. And so I've been very lucky. I've been very lucky with the path. It's obviously been a little, you know, it's nothing's a straight path, right? And so there's been turns and winds and things like that, but it's been awesome.
You've been coaching the whole time, but you're mentioning Salt City Prospects, and that's, I think, kind of gave you enough to be able to step away from teaching. And why don't you explain to listeners what Salt City Prospects is, how it started, you know, the opportunity you saw, and where it's gotten to today?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, to be honest, to say that, like, I remember having an honest conversation with you about Iron Horse. Every time you'd be up from Texas, like I would always, because it always interests me. Stuff like that has always interests me. And so I remember picking your brain a handful of times about Iron Horse, how you guys do it. And so it had always been in the back of my mind of trying to do something like that in hockey. And
Iron Horse being a club lacrosse
club
program
lacrosse
we started in Texas.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I remember actually I was coaching club at Lemoyne. We didn't have a recruiting budget, obviously. And I remember reading an article, I think it was the University of Washington doing like a prospects day for club hockey. And I thought, that's a pretty good idea. I was teaching at the time. And so I remember calling Stephen Malero, who was the head coach at King's College at the time, and now he's the head coach at Northwood Prep up in Lake Placid. And I called him. I said, hey, here's what I'm thinking. I want to kind of do a camp, small camp, 2 teams worth of kids, whatever it is, someplace that's not like you wouldn't consider a hockey city. And so we landed on Rockville, Maryland, out of just like randomly. So we ended up at Rockville, Maryland.
Dart at the map.
Right. And it was about 45 minutes outside of DC. And between Steven and I, we were able to kind of put together this crew of 7 or 8 coaches. They coached, college, they coached junior. We had a current player, Sean Lynch, came down with us, and he was playing at Utica College at the time. And we went down with probably 8 of us, 42 kids in the camp. It probably took me about 400 phone calls to get 42 kids to that first camp. We went down there. The sole purpose of it was to give me a recruiting avenue for Lemoyne and to give me something to do in the summer when I wasn't teaching. Just figured it would be 1 camp a year. And we went down. It went awesome. The parents, were emailing me and texting me right after saying, hey, when can we sign up for next year already? And decided to add a camp in Syracuse the year after that. The year after that, we added one in Massachusetts. And now this past year, we just ran 7 camps throughout the country. And, we'll do 2 in PA. We'll do 3 in New York. We'll do 1 in Maryland and 1 in Massachusetts. And then we do a couple goalies only camps. We do like a 5-on-5 college league throughout the summer. So it's, again, it's kind of, when we sat down and kind of designed the idea of SCP, it wasn't, I want to get this to be my full-time job and I wanted to get to 7 camps.
Yeah.
It just kind of like the year after, it was like someone would call me and be like, hey, you guys can use our rink in Reading, Pennsylvania if you want. Oh, all right. Well, let's try it. Or, hey, we ran it out of Castleton University in Vermont a couple of years. Well, the Castleton coach called me, hey, you guys want to run a camp out of my rink? Yeah, for sure. So it just kind of like happened organically. And now here we are, almost 9-10 years later. And, we're still just continuing to grow and have success. And I know I keep saying it, but I'm a firm believer that if you surround yourself with the right people, good things will happen. And I'm very fortunate that I have probably 30 people that I can call at any time for SCP. And I know that they do things the right way and they're going to just only help grow the brand and make kids better and give them a development platform or an exposure platform. And at the end of the day, long story short, that's what SCP is. It's giving kids a platform to play on in front of college coaches, in front of junior coaches for kids who want to play hockey at a higher level, whether that's prep, junior, club hockey, NCAA hockey, whatever it is, just giving them a platform to play on and helping them develop, helping them grow, and helping them get exposure.
So that's like the sell. That was going to be my next question. What's the sell to the parents, right? You talked about how you called them, you had 400 phone calls to get 40 kids. I assume it's not quite like that anymore.
Right.
But I'm sure you're still talking to a lot of parents.
Yeah.
And you're just not so much, you are selling them, but you're being honest. You're telling them what this is for and what this can do.
And that's the most important thing. So like our camps, they're small. There's only 2 teams or 3 teams worth of players. So in a 2-team camp, there's 12 defensemen in the whole thing. So it's 24 forwards, 12 D, 6 goalies. So there's only 12 defensemen. We could have 15, sometimes 20 NCAA coaches there on the ice running the whole camp. It's a practice and a game every day. So that's 3 practices and 3 games. That's 6 times. Those 15 NCAA coaches are going to see the same 12 defensemen 6 times over the weekend. So we're going to be able to really get to know the players, what they do well, what they need to work on, who they are as kids. So that's why we keep the camps so small. And at the end of the day, and it's the honest truth, like if you look at, there's close to 1,500 NCAA baseball teams. There's close to 1,500 NCAA basketball teams. That's through all levels. There's 150, roughly, NCAA hockey teams.
Total. Wow. So that's not even D. What's D1?
So D1 is around 64.
Okay. A little less than lacrosse.
And then Division III is around like 84. And those numbers could fluctuate a 1 or 2 here or there. And then there's really no Division II. There's probably 5 Division II schools. So you're talking about 150 NCAA programs in the country. Let's say there's 30 kids on a team. That's 4,500 kids. Divide that by 4 for every freshman, sophomore, junior, senior class. That's a little over 1,000 kids a year going to play college hockey. So you want to give yourself the best opportunity.
What percentage of them are coming from Canada?
Right. So that's let's say 1,100 kids, and that's not just Americans. That's Europeans. That's Canadians. So you add in. What can you do to give yourself the best opportunity to put yourself in front of coaches in the right settings? And that's our main goal, is to put kids in situations where it's not 200 kids on the ice, where it's not a tournament of 12 teams. It's 2 or 3 teams worth of kids. So that way the same college coaches are going to be able to see those kids over and over and over again and give those kids, again, the platform and the exposure that they can hopefully get to at least end up on some radars going forward for them.
This episode is brought to you by Renewal by Andersen of Central New York, the #1 window and door company in America. Winter is coming, and there's no better time to upgrade. Their energy-efficient windows keep warm in, the cold out, and your energy bills low. Schedule your free consultation today by clicking the link in the show notes. I think that's a great philosophy with the camp. It was something that I always, what I had enjoyed about doing club lacrosse is it was giving players an opportunity to get exposure from, even at a young age, right? Playing, when I say exposure, obviously when they're in 5th grade, they're not playing in front of, the Maryland coach,
right?
But they're getting exposed to different players from different parts of the country.
Right.
So they're seeing different styles or seeing some way better teams like, oh man, I need to up my game. I need to work harder. I need to get better on my own. And then as they got older, yes, they have an opportunity to play in front of these coaches.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're going to get found, right? We're giving you an opportunity, exactly. Right? And we're going to help coach you through things you need to work on to hopefully get you in front of a coach who's going to say, hey, I want that player on my team. But unfortunately, it seems, I've been out of club lacrosse for a little while now, but a lot of it now is more about the wins, the winning and losing. Yeah. Hey, I want to win this tournament. I want to win that. And it's unfortunate because, don't get me wrong, I think that's an important part of any sport, right? The competition side of it. But, when you're just focusing on winning, that means like, hey, in 6th grade, Bob, you're not that good right now. You haven't grown yet.
Right.
You haven't developed your left hand yet. You're going to sit on the bench while I play my starters because we want to win this tournament. And all of a sudden, you're going to get discouraged. Maybe you're going to stop playing, or you're just not going to bother putting in the work. And it's like, all of a sudden by 8th grade, you're 6'5", and you're a horse. And it's like, wow, if we kept, you got competitive as a 6th grader and, you kept playing, now you're in 8th grade at that size, you'd be one of the top recruits in the country. But if you're not giving everyone that opportunity and focusing on, hey, this is a chance for players to get exposure and to potentially play at the next level, then you're just cutting kids out. It's just the wrong philosophy, I think, for club lacrosse. It's unfortunate it's gotten that way. I'm not saying every club does it that way.
No, absolutely. Right.
But it's great to see that's what you guys do. It's literally, you're talking about great ratio, coach to player ratio for these kids to say, hey, if you're good enough, you're going to get found. Yeah. Right. These coaches are going to see you, or they're going to let you know what you need to work on to potentially get.
Yeah. And that's, and with hockey, like hockey's so off the grid as far as the way it's recruited. It's not like any other sport.
It's way different.
Right. And so, like, to give you a perfect example, again, like I'm in a household with a college coach, and Britt and I have had numerous conversations of just,
college lacrosse coach. Yeah. Britt.
Right.
Yes.
And like she's legitimately going and recruiting sophomores in high school or juniors in high school. And it's so foreign to me because, like, at Oswego, we have, again, roughly 30 kids on the team. There's one kid that came to us not as a 21-year-old freshman. So, right. Yeah. So, like, she's dealing with girls, like high school girls. We're dealing with men. Like, we are bringing in men.
Yeah.
And so, like,
men who can legally purchase alcohol at 21 years of age.
there's no other sport like that. And so when I have conversations with parents, the biggest phone call I get from parents on a weekly basis, and it's not a bad thing, because I don't want people to throw money away or take the wrong path or whatever it is, because you can get caught up in it, because you'll get phone calls and emails from thousands of people saying, hey, you got to do this, this, or this. You got to fly out to Wisconsin and take part in this tournament, or you're never going to play college hockey. It's going to cost you, $5,000 once you get planes and food and all that. So I have no problem talking to parents saying, listen, it's okay. Like, if you call me about your 15-year-old kid saying, what should I do with him? You got 6 years before he's going to college. So, like, there's no rush, because, like, to your point, the best player at 15 may not be the best player at 21. Like, hockey is a sport for late bloomers. And that's why, like, if you you may hit your absolute physical and athletic peak at 16 years old, which is okay if you're going to school at 18. You know what I mean? Like, if
it's great if you're a lacrosse player.
Right. Like, so you might still make it. But as far as hockey goes, if you hit your peak at 16, you still got 5 years majority of the time to go play college hockey. And the crazier part is Division III is on average older than Division I. So, like, and that's what people don't, I'll get texts and phone calls all the time from people who will be like, well, Johnny's going to finish up his senior year, and then, he doesn't really want to pursue Division I. So he'll just probably go play Division III somewhere. It's like, well, in fact, like, if you look at the numbers, Division III is older than Division I. But it's at the Division III level, we're not getting NHL draft picks. So, like, those NHL draft picks, they're probably coming in at 18 or 19 years old.
Yeah.
Because they can. We're not getting those kids at the Division III level. So, like, our kids are going to take as many years as they can at junior hockey to try to pursue Division I. And then if that doesn't happen for whatever reason, they end up at the Division III. So Division III is inherently older than Division I. So all of our camps, like, again, you go back to our camps are 16 to 20-year-olds. So when we do them every year, like this year will be 06 birth years to 09 birth
so
years.
Old, yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I love working.
Well, it's probably nice as a coach,
group.
right?
It's
you're
fun.
Dealing with young men,
as
opposed to kids.
Yeah, and you're able to kind of check kids, put them on a radar type thing, right? If we see a 16-year-old that jumps off the page for us, we're circling him and we're going to keep track of him for the next, 3-4 years or whatever it is. If we see a 20-year-old that we really like, it's all right. Well, we're going to follow him throughout his season. So there's a lot of good avenues to it. But kind of like you said, I think sports at times kind of gets way out of hand, whether that's from the club side of it, whether it's from the parent side of it, whether it's from the player side of it. It can get very out of hand in a hurry if you don't kind of keep it in control.
Yeah. To your point of recruiting, how many players out of Section 3 hockey went and played NCAA hockey the next year?
Oh, like the next year from like graduating high school?
Graduating high school to go play. Some lot D3, D2, D1. Estimate. Just like last year.
Legitimately.
Like any given year, how many graduate and go play college?
From their actual high school?
Yes.
There's one kid that I can think of in my 16 years, one kid. It was Ray Falso. He graduated from Skinny Atlas High School and went directly to NAS.
That's wild.
But
talk about how different it is. I mean, think about how many kids go play college lacrosse.
Now, how many kids have gone to play college as 18-year-olds from Section 3? There's been quite a few, but those kids don't graduate from their high schools. They go to a prep school. They're going to a prep school. They're going to play junior. They're going to, U.S. national team, whatever it is. So they're not actually graduating from Liverpool or CNS or West Jenny. Like they got to do gap years. But Ray is the only one that I can think of that went.
Is that because prep school is like that much higher level of competition?
Yes and no. I think, again, high school hockey around here is very cyclical, and it goes in a cycle where there's good years and then there's bad years. There's good years and there's bad years. And, we brought him up earlier, like Sean Lynch, the year, Sean was playing in high school, and, Anthony Angelo, who played for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And, there was a lot of really good players in high school hockey. And those kids stayed until they were, juniors. Sean stayed till he was a senior, then left. And those were really good years. Those kids stayed long, and then they went and played their gap years. And then the bad years, you'll see kids leave early, and they'll leave as freshmen. And should every kid leave at that time? Probably not. But are there enough avenues and resources for kids to be able to find places to play at that age? Yeah. And that's okay. Like, that's not my decision to say yes or no. It's, the family's decision. If they find something that's a good fit academically, hockey-wise, financially, then, that's for them to decide.
Do you give them any insight on the forecasts of what part of the cycle high school hockey is at that point? Like,
yes and no. Right.
I think it's down. I think you're a tremendous player. I think you're better off going here.
Yeah.
Hey, there's some serious players in this league.
Right. Well, we have honest conversations with kids all the time. If I truly think a kid's ready to leave, I tell them. Like, there's a kid right now, I won't say him by name, but there's a kid right now that I remember I had a conversation with his dad 2 years ago around Thanksgiving. The dad said, "What should I do with my kid?" I said, "Keep him home." I said, "Keep him home. He's not ready to leave. He's, until my big thing is get good where you are and arrive when you're ready. Like, until you're dominating where you are, there's no reason to go anywhere else. Like, get good where you are and arrive when you're ready. It's better for a kid to arrive a year too late than a year too early. You're going to lose that year of development if you go someplace and you're just overwhelmed."
Yeah.
And people always want to try to.
I've said people don't necessarily want to do that.
Right. And they want to skip rungs on the ladder. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's just about taking your time. It's a long process. And I remember having a conversation with that dad of keep him home. Don't worry about it. And then a month later, I saw the kid play live, and I hadn't seen him play in probably 8 months. And I grabbed the kid off the ice. I said, "I told your dad a month ago you need to stay home." I said, "You need to leave." And I called the dad the next day. I said, "I was wrong." I said, "He's developed so much physically and as a hockey player in the last 8 months. It's in your guys' best interest to look into prep schools. And I'll help you in the process. I'll make phone calls, whatever we need to do to help you, kind of get where you want to go." And now the kid is having success at prep. But that's kind of the conversations of, I have no problem telling you when to leave, but I also have no problem telling you should stay. And at the end of the day, it's on you as a player, as a parent, as a family to make that decision. And I'm okay with whichever way you decide. But I know hockey's an expensive sport, and I know that it's a long marathon. So if you can keep your kid at home, go to school with his buddies and save money, because at some point you're going to have to send your kid away anyways if he wants to play college hockey.
True.
So if you could save money while you can, why not do it, right?
I've never played hockey. I'm always fascinated to hear, you talk about, I saw him play. I knew he was ready to leave. What makes a good hockey player? What are you looking for, not only as a coach for, whether it's your own team or just like, he's going to be a great player, potentially could be a great player. And, I think of lacrosse, right? There's like 3 things. There's IQ. I think of it like a triangle. There's IQ, there's athleticism, and there's stick skills, right? There's 3 things. Like you need to be really good at least 2 of them to play at a high level.
Yeah.
Doesn't really matter what 2. If you're all 3, then you become a special player.
Right.
But, to play at a high level, you really need to be very good at 2. Like, talk about what you see in a hockey player that's like, he's going to be the real deal.
Well, I think it could translate very easily to what you said.
Okay.
Right. Athleticism would be skating. Like, you
I
have
was
to be
going to
able to
say,
skate.
yeah, like is skating like, if I could be a great athlete, but if I'm not a great skater, I'm not necessarily a great athlete on the ice.
Right.
Is there players like that? Or does everyone usually by the time they're in high school who plays hockey is a very good skater, right? You just think you're on the ice so much.
You would think, but there's only 4,500 spots of college hockey, right? So
excellent skater,
but that could be like, there could be kids that are Division III players because they just aren't a Division I skater, right? And so skating is such a huge piece. Like, if you can't, especially as you get towards the top of the pyramid where you're in a junior league or you're in college hockey where everyone around you is good. So like, you have to be able to keep up with the play. If you can't keep up with the play, you can't play.
Do you see someone who's a Division I athlete but not a Division I skater?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That seems like such a you can help that, right? I mean,
you can and you
skating
can't,
is skating. It's
right.
not.
You can and you
just
can't,
repetition.
but you think about it. If you're a bad skater at 18, that's 18 years worth of bad habits that you got to try to.
Okay. So it's not just you're undoing.
Like you think about, and again, the guy's an unbelievable athlete. Don't get me wrong, and he's accomplished things that you and I wish we both could accomplish. But you look at Tim Tebow. Like Tim Tebow had a throwing motion for 22 years, right? And by the time he got to the NFL, the greatest architects in the world, as far as throwing motions, couldn't fix it to a point where he could stick in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And that's not a knock on him. If he's listening, I have all the respect in the world for him.
He's doing fine. I don't think he's getting too fun.
Right. But you get what I'm saying. Yeah. It's 22 years.
Play tight end or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
It's 22 years of bad habits that you got to try to break. So I think skating's one. IQ's another one. Like you can, if I call it blind hustle. Like if you're a good skater and you don't have IQ and you're just ripping around the rink, just blind hustle everywhere, what are you really accomplishing? You got to get places, but then you got to know
better
what you got to do.
Better than no hustle, but it's
right.
Not.
But you got to know what you're going to do when you get there. So you got to have some sort of IQ. Like if I know that you're going to be fast enough and you're a good enough skater to get first touch on a puck, that's awesome. But if I have no idea what you're going to do with that puck once you get it, that's an issue.
Yeah.
So skating, IQ, and then the last one is, I think, the biggest one, and I don't think it matters to sport because I think it's controlling the controllables. Like there may be things like skating, you may never be able to pivot to your right, like for whatever reason, genetics, biologically, something. I may never be able to get myself to pivot to my right, no matter how hard I try, no matter how many professionals I work with, whatever it is. It just might be out of you can't control that. You can control your compete level. And that to me is the biggest thing. Myself, you, Alyssa, my wife, we've all been to athletic events where we've had to evaluate kids, whether it's in season or in the off season, whether it's basketball, lacrosse, or hockey. The first kids you notice when you walk in are kids that are just working way harder than everybody else, right? So I tell kids all the time, like, if you do one thing well, make it your compete level. Just outwork somebody because that jumps off the page. When I go to an SCP camp in the middle of June, it's not in season. It's not the playoffs. It's not life or death.
Yeah. So there's not all the reasons to get up.
Right. So the minute I walk in, if I see a kid that's just selling out, doing everything he's doing, going 100 miles an hour, playing with pace, being heavy on pucks, stops and starts, like all the buzzwords, it's like, oh, wow, I'm going to circle that kid's name. I always talk about, it's a video I always think back to when I'm talking about compete level, but Bob Huggins used to coach basketball at Division I level for years. He was at West Virginia. And there was a guy, I believe his name was Jalen Carter, and he ended up being conference defender player of the year. And they had a press conference with Bob Huggins. They said, tell us how you found Jalen Carter. And he said, well, I went down to Orlando, Florida for a showcase. And he said it was there was a bunch of courts. And he said, I was on the furthest back court. I had my coffee. It was 8 a.m. I sat down and 8 a.m. game, tip off. I barely took a sip of my coffee. And there's this kid full court pressing right off the hop, 8 a.m. in the morning. And he said, I called my assistant coaches and I said, this is a kid we got to have. And they said, what's he do well? And he said, I have no idea. He said, but I know that I'm sitting down here in Orlando, Florida at 8 a.m. and he's picking up full court. He said, that's a kid we got to have. And he said, and it's never stopped. He said, he's in there. He's not in there 20 minutes before practice. He's in there an hour and a half before practice. He's staying an hour after practice. He puts in the work and he competes harder than everybody else and he's had success for it. So if you're not going to, like, you can overcome some skill deficits with how hard you compete.
Yeah.
And we have kids right now on our roster that do that. Like we have a kid who had 0 goals and 3 assists last year that played every game. Like that's pretty hard to do at the college hockey level. If you're not producing points, what are you doing to maintain your spot in the lineup every game? Well, it's because we know he's an unbelievable teammate. He's our biggest cheerleader on the bench. Maybe if he's not getting the minutes he needs or wants that night. 2, he's going to go through a wall for anybody on the team. And 3, he's going to do anything we ask him to do, whether it's play a 4th line role, whether it's to, go out there, kill a penalty, block a shot. Just if you're going to do one thing well, compete. compete as hard as you can.
Yeah. And it's not just when you're in front of coaches either.
Right.
It's just period, because what a coach sees is if a player's doing that, not, even if whether they do well or not at the event, it's the compound effect of continually showing up to an 8 a.m. practice,
right,
to a practice by yourself when nobody's watching.
Right.
If you're just putting in that effort, where are you going to be in 6 months? Where are you going to be in a year? Right. That's how you really develop.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of having that mindset of just, if I'm here, this is what we tell our club lacrosse coaches. I know it's different going to the coach, but I'm like, you're here. Just give it your all.
Right.
Why not?
Exactly.
Like, we're here.
Exactly.
Just give it all you got. And then, see what happens. Like I said, in a month, 6 months, you do that for years, you're going to be a whole different player than if you just kind of went with the flow of things.
Right. No, I agree. I agree completely. And again, and it's such a controllable thing, right? Like, it's not easy, but it's a controllable thing.
It's a mindset.
Exactly.
I wanted to come back to, we were talking, before I think we were recording, about the helmet situation in college. I asked you, is there any college players, or is there hockey players who break their jaws? And you said it actually happens more in college, but college wear the full mask and pros don't. They just wear the visor. So talk about how does that happen?
Yeah. A lot of it is kind of a false sense of security and protection. So, like, to track back, so Steve Eccles, who all the Eccles boys, all the Eccles boys. Steve is their uncle, and Steve, I've known Steve forever, and I've had a lot of conversations with Steve about, he was an unbelievable hockey player, and back when he was a kid, he told me, like, in our youth hockey, like 10 years old, we never wore cages. Nothing was ever, you never had cages, and nobody ever got hurt. And that's, if you look at the statistics of it, and the NCAA has considered moving away from cages, and the talk has slowed down a little bit in the last handful of years, but like pre-COVID, there was some serious talks about moving away from it.
It's going to be hard just from how it looks, the optics of it.
Well, that, and you got, then all of a sudden you dental insurance and all of that.
Well, that's what I mean. All it takes is a couple injuries. Right. It's like, well, they're not even wearing cages. Even if there's less, there's still going to be some.
Right. And so the reason there are more, shoulder injuries or concussions or jaw injuries is because it's a false sense of security. You lose control of your stick. You lose control of your elbows. You lose control of hitting high because you feel protected up here. And if you watch the NHL, are there times where elbows go or sticks go? Yeah, but it's actually a lot less frequent than you would think, with how fast they play, how fast the game is, but how under control they are. And because a majority of those kids have been wearing half shields since they were 16 years old. They were playing in the USHL, or they were playing in the OHL. They're playing in these leagues that you wear them. They're so under control of their bodies, their sticks, their movements, that you feel safe. And that's, truthfully, like, taking it even a step further. There's guys that swear that the safest league to ref in the world is the NHL, which you'd be like, how's that possible? Because they're going 30 miles an hour. They're shooting 100 miles an hour. But it's because they're so good and under control. They know, even the refs know where those pucks are going to go. Because you don't have a kid who's going to panic with the puck and just smash it and smoke you in the chest with a puck, right? Yeah. If you're a ref. I know if I'm going back and that defenseman's going back, I know where he's going to go, and he knows where he's going to go. So I'm going to go to this pocket that I know he's not going to go to, and then it's going to make it easier on both of us. So, like, it is amazing that the higher levels you go, the more under control they are, which is an obvious answer. But, it's just about playing under control and just that false sense of protection that you get sometimes with the cage or with the bubble.
It's exactly what my wife, Alyssa, says about women's lacrosse. Because they don't wear helmets.
Right.
However, they're introducing these kind of bike helmets with the goggles attached. And she's like, it gives them a false sense of security where they're going to be reckless.
Yeah.
And it makes everyone, out there, it's a little more dangerous for everyone. She's like, if everyone had to wear it, that's one thing, or if no one has to wear it. But having a few players with it on, here they're running, they're not afraid to get hit in the head, but other, girls or women are.
Right.
It's just like, it just doesn't make for a good mix. And it's like, either just give them a full helmet or don't, or just keep it how it is. But it's not any safer to have a few kids with it on.
Right. Well, and even you think football and rugby.
Yeah.
Like football and rugby, there are people that swear that if you removed helmets from football, it'd become safer. Because there's a reason you're launching yourself head first at me over the middle.
Exactly.
Because you have the helmet and you feel this sense of security. Whereas in rugby, you look at those guys are all, they're tackling chest up, right?
Yeah.
Like it's all form. I can't go at you with my head because it's unprotected. So if you remove those things, as crazy as it sounds,
you're not just gonna
right. As crazy as it sounds, it does create just that sense of protection and false security.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Bob, people want to look up Salt City Prospects, whether they're a listener who has a kid. Talk a little bit about how to get in touch with you or what you have going on. Obviously, you're getting into season with both West Jenny and Oswego here, but when's the next thing for Salt City Prospects? When's the next camp?
Yeah, we start to go right when our seasons end. So March, April, we start doing a lot of skates locally for local kids, and then from there, basically mid-May to the end of July, we're doing a camp somewhere every weekend. And if people are interested, saltcityprospects.com, Salt City Pros on Instagram and Twitter. And our email's right on there. My phone number's right on there. People are welcome to call and reach out and inquire about anything. Anything it's not just 16 to 20-year-olds. We do stuff for kids of all ages, any position, things like that. So if people are interested, like I said, we'd love to get them involved. We'll find a place to get them involved. And thank you for having me on here. It's been a pleasure. And it's always good to see you.
Coach, Dad.
Yeah.
Love you, brother.
Love you too, man. Appreciate it.